topics and amplifying your voice. Join the conversation and make your voice count. The people's voice. Make your voice count.
Behind every broken desk lies a broken promise. Education shapes the nations, but who is asking the right questions? Introducing Edu Dialogue, the show that goes beyond the surface, exposes the cracks, the corruption, and the silence in Nigeria's education system. Edu Dialogue, Saturdays, 3 p.m., only on VOP TV. We break the biggest stories, from missing funds to policy failures. We ask the tough questions and demand real answers. Edu Dialogue, this Saturday, 3 p.m. on Voice of the People Television.
VOP TV. Now, you have more than a voice.
Documentaries. Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television. VOP TV. Youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space. Exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories.
Hello and welcome to News Hour on Voice of the People TV. I am Vivian Oguche.
And I am Nenna Ndomdioto. Before we begin the news, kindly visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. First, the headlines. Tinubu urges united efforts to defeat insecurity.
DSS sues El-Rufai over alleged bugging of NSA's phone.
Protesters demand mandatory real-time e-transmission of results.
Women rally for reserved seats before 2027.
NCDC issues advisory as 2 health workers die of Lassa fever and 15 infected.
Commencement of fasting. NSCIA confirms Ramadan and urges resilience among Muslims.
On the foreign scene, Navaline's mother says poisoning assessment confirms murder.
While in business news, Nigeria's inflation rate drops to 15.1%.
In sports, Mourinho downplays Real Madrid return rumors ahead Benfica's playoff clash.
Well, in entertainment news, Amotola commends women's dominance, entrepreneurship in Nollywood.
Now the news in details. President Bola Tinubu has reassured that Nigeria would surmount its security challenges, but only through collective national effort. He spoke on Monday in Yola during his visit to Adamawa State, where he commissioned projects executed by Governor Amadu Fintri. Tinubu commended the armed forces for their operations against insurgents, bandits, and other criminal elements, stating that the federal government remains appreciative of the military's ongoing efforts to safeguard the country. During the visit, Tinubu commissioned a mega model school in Yola, which represents 21 newly constructed model schools across the state, an expanded ultra-modern High Court complex, and a newly built governor's office at the Government House, among others. He also inaugurated the newly constructed underpass at the former Bekeji roundabout as part of the expanded 8-lane bank road in Jemta, Yola, and performed the groundbreaking for the new National Youth Service Corps Permanent Orientation Camp in Makohi.
Well, in another development, the National Assembly Joint Committee on Defense has backed the Nigerian Army's proposed 1.504 trillion naira 2026 budget and pledged to tackle the recurring delays in the release of funds, which it noted had hampered military operations. Speaking at a joint budget defense session in Abuja, the chairman of Senate Committee on Army, Abdulaziz Yardua, said the budget was critical to strengthening national security and sustaining the ongoing operations across the country. He added that members of both chambers, having extensively deliberated on the proposal, were satisfied with the Army's budget projections. Meanwhile, he described the delays in the release of appropriated funds as a systemic challenge affecting ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, including the military, and assured the Army of legislative collaboration for smoother budget implementation. On his part, the chairman of House Committee on Army, Aminu Balele, pledged the lawmakers sustained legislative oversight and engagement with relevant authorities to guarantee timely release of funds.
Away from that report, the federal government has entered before the Federal High Court in Abuja a 3-count charge against the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, over his alleged unlawful interception of the phone conversation of the National Security Advisor, Ribadu. The charges brought through the Department of State Services, DSS, against El-Rufai, who was also former minister of the Federal Capital Territory, included committing an offense under the Cybercrimes Prohibition and Prevention Amendment Act 2024. He was said to have committed the crime with some persons who were currently on the run. According to the federal government, the defendant had on February 3, 2026, as a guest on its local television station program, admitted his complicity in the crime. In count 2, he was said to be aware that someone unlawfully intercepted the NSA's communications but failed to report the crime to the relevant security agencies. The DSS further alleged that by using technical equipment to intercept the NSA's calls, the defendants endangered public safety and national security and instilled reasonable apprehension among Nigerians, thereby breaching Section 131, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Communications Act 2003.
Meanwhile, a national security debate has erupted following the federal government's charge brought against the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, over the alleged interception of communications belonging to the National Security Advisor, Ribadu. The action follows El-Rufai's admission that he and others listened to Ribadu's tapped phone conversations, thereby sparking widespread concerns over piracy, privacy, national security, and accountability. Our correspondent, Rhoda Johnny, has more.
Reactions have continued to trail the federal government's decision to charge former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai over the alleged interception of communications belonging to the National Security Advisor, Ribadu. The move followed El-Rufai's claim in a recent interview that he and others listened to Ribadu's phone conversations after it was allegedly tapped. Though he admitted the act is unlawful, however, the development has since generated nationwide debate over privacy, national security, and accountability.
El-Rufai claimed that someone was able to tap into the conversation of the NSA, and that is also a very big thing as it affects our national security. even though he went as far as saying that it is not only the government that knows how to, tap into individuals' telephone conversation. That's to say, he must have a proof of who has tapped into the NSA's telephone conversation, and he must also have a proof of how his own telephone lines and that of the individuals associated with him has been tapped into. So we expect answers from these guys. It is not for us to judge who is right or wrong until we have counterclaims and superior evidence as to whether such things actually happened.
The former governor of Kaduna State, Malam El-Rufai, tapped the phone of the National Security Advisor to the President, Malam Ribadu. Yes, this shows how porous our security system is. If the phone numbers of the National Security Advisor can be tapped just like that by an individual, that shows that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not even safe. His phone numbers can be tapped. I want to use this medium to call on the authorities to take actions against the dramatist personnel, against the perpetrators. I'm very, very optimistic that the judiciary will do the needful, yes, so as to serve as deterrent to other political actors who believe in tapping the phones of his opponents to score political goals.
Brother Johnny, BOP TV News.
Thank you very much, Rhoda. Still on legal matters, the Federal High Court in Abuja has fixed February 24, 2026 for the suit seeking to compel the deregistration of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, and other political parties over alleged constitutional breaches. The suit was filed by the incorporated trustees of the National Forum of Former Legislators against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the Attorney General of the Federation, and 5 political parties, the ADC, Accord Party, Zenith, Labour Party, and Action Alliance. Initially slated for mention on Monday before Justice Peter Lifo, the court subsequently adjourned proceedings to February 24 after the matter was not heard. Counsel to the plaintiff, Yakubu Roba, told newsmen that the action was for a judicial interpretation of constitutional and statutory provisions governing the registration and continued recognition of political parties in Nigeria. The case seeks to determine whether INEC is constitutionally bound to deregister political parties that fail to meet minimum electoral performance thresholds prescribed by law.
In the meantime, the Action Aid, Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, and some other civil society organizations have called for real-time electronic transmission of election results for transparency and credible elections. Speaking during an advocacy program at the National Assembly, Country Director of Action Aid Nigeria, Andrew Mamedu, urged the National Assembly's Conference Committee to retain in the provisions the mandatory real-time electronic transmission of electronic results from polling unit to IREV. He described the real-time mandatory electronic transmission of electronic election results without condition as adopted by the House of Representatives in its Electoral Amendment Bill as the only way the people's votes would count, adding that the version was what they wanted, describing the version passed by the Senate as a significant departure from the progressive report agreed by the Joint National Assembly Committee on Electoral Matters. The group urged the Conference Committee to demonstrate statesmanship and act in the overall interest of the Nigerian people.
Still on electoral bill amendment, a former resident electoral commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mike Igini, has asked lawmakers to reject the proposed provision qualifying real-time electronic transmission of polling unit results in the bill. Igini warned that many lawmakers could be exposed to the same electoral vulnerabilities that led to the high turnover rate in previous assemblies if the qualifying clause to direct electronic transmission of results from polling unit to INEC's results viewing portal is retained. According to him, empirical evidence from electoral cycles between 2007 and 2023 shows a persistent pattern of legislative weakening, largely driven by manipulation of polling unit results during collation processes. He noted that many incumbent legislators who were denied party renomination tickets by governors and party leaders and who later secured alternative platforms were defeated, even though they allegedly won at their polling units, warning that the 10th National Assembly stands perilously close to replicating this lamentable pattern. Igini urged the lawmakers to restore the original provision mandating direct, real-time electronic transmission of results to escape the impending purge.
Meanwhile, scores of women staged a peaceful rally at the main entrance of the National Assembly on Monday, demanding that lawmakers fast-track the passage of the Women Reserved Seats Bill ahead of the 2027 general election. If passed, the bill will alter the 1999 Constitution to create reserved seats for women in the National Assembly and state houses of assembly. The measure is designated as an intervention to address the low women representation in Nigeria's legislative chambers by creating special constituencies to be contested exclusively by women. Addressing the rally, former convener of the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, Ene Obi, commended lawmakers for the progress so far, but urged them to hasten its final passage. According to her, a vote for a woman is a vote for life, and the timely passage of the bill would allow political parties and prospective female candidates adequate time to prepare for the 2027 elections. Also speaking, Rahila Dauda, who represented the International Federation of Women Lawyers, said the current level of female representation in Nigeria's legislature was unacceptable.
Away from that, the Labour Party's leadership crisis has intensified within the Nadi Usman-led National Working Committee, calling for the arrest and prosecution of the former national chairman, Julius Abure, over an alleged invasion of the party's national secretariat in Abuja. Addressing a news conference at the secretariat, the new leadership accused Abure and his loyalists of attacking the premises, threatening party officials, and removing sensitive materials, including laptops and financial documents. The NWC has petitioned the Inspector General of Police, the Department of State Services, and other security agencies to take action. Usman stated that Abure's actions were a gross disrespect for institutional processes and warned that such conduct could set a dangerous precedent. However, Abure's faction has denied the allegations, claiming that Usman-led committee was illegally occupying the secretariat.
Health matters now. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has raised an alarm over the increasing spread of Lassa fever among health workers, with 2 dead and 15 cases confirmed so far. In an advisory released on Monday, the NCDC sympathized with the affected healthcare workers and families of the deceased. Healthcare worker infections have been reported across multiple states, including the known high-burden areas such as Ondo, Edo, Bauchi, Taraba, Ebonyi, and Benue, with specific hotspots often identified at the council level. The NCDC disclosed that recent findings reveal gaps in infection prevention and control practices, as well as mixed risks of exposure in certain departments. These gaps, it added, have resulted in IPC strategies that are misaligned with actual exposure risks, with fatal consequences.
The Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, NSCIA, has announced the commencement of Ramadan, urging Muslims across Nigeria to begin fasting and remain steadfast amid the growing challenges facing the community. It confirmed that the crescent for the holy month should be sighted on February 17, and that if observed, February 18 will mark the first day of fasting. adding that otherwise, February 19 will commence the Ramadan. In a message to the Muslim Ummah, the Council said the National Moon Sighting Committee, in consultation with the National Space Research and Development Agency, has put measures in place to officially monitor the crescent's appearance and advise the Muslim leadership accordingly. Acknowledging the challenges confronting Muslims in Nigeria over the past year, including what is described as heightened Islamophobic narratives, attacks by insurgents and bandits, and perceived media bias in reporting. It decried the framing of Muslims as aggressors in certain cases, while pointing to unreported attacks against Muslim communities.
Well, turning to other stories now. In celebration of the 84th birthday of Pastor Enoch Adeboye, Reach for Christ held an education and advocacy outreach, Light Up Olusosun, at the landfill community in Ojota, Lagos. The initiative themed Taking Education to Olusosun is aimed at providing structured learning support to children living in and around the landfill community, reinforcing the message that geography must not limit a child's destiny. VOPTV's Onyidamola Lokuchan reports.
The outreach brought together volunteers, faith leaders, and advocates who converged at the Olusosun dump site to engage children through learning support activities and encouragement. Organizers explained that the campaign addresses the harsh realities faced by children growing up in one of Africa's largest landfill environments, where poverty, environmental hazard, and social exclusion often restrict access to formal education.
We decided to focus on lighting up our environments, reaching out to the less privileged, and also winning souls, drawing men to the knowledge of Christ and, to the knowledge of light.
Speaking during the outreach, Mr. Emmanuel Emefinim emphasized that education remains one of the most powerful tools for transformation. He noted that taking learning directly to undeserved communities demonstrates that every child deserves opportunity, regardless of background. Chairman of Reach for Christ, Pastor Leke Adeboye, drew a biblical connection to the program, referring to the scripture that emphasized on when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was naked, you clothed me. He stressed that service to humanity is service to God, and that caring for vulnerable children reflects true faith in action.
There are some questions that God Almighty will ask us when we get to heaven. He would ask us that when I didn't have clothes, did you give me clothes? When I didn't have food, did you give me food? When I didn't have shelter, did you provide shelter? As a matter of fact, when I had medical issues, how did you help me? So that's one of the things that we would answer when we get to heaven.
Also speaking, Mrs. Temiloluwa Adeboye, a board member of Dare Adeboye Foundation, highlighted the growing number of children without access to formal education and the urgent need for sustained intervention. She reaffirmed the commitment of the Dare Adeboye Foundation's initiative that expand educational access and restore hope.
We believe in education, and having more people who are educated will eradicate a lot of vices in the community. Statistically, there are about 1.5 children out of school in the southwestern part of Nigeria. In Ogun State in particular, there are about 20% of that number of children out of school. And our goal today is to launch our initiative, which is the REST initiative, is restructuring education, skills, and technology.
One of the beneficiaries, Adewale Stephen, shared the story of transformation. Once a child within the Olusosun community is now in senior secondary school 3, he attributed his academic progress to the initiative and the consistency support he received.
One woman called me that day that I should come, that she want to preach for me. So I was like, waiting, you want to preach for me? I lived there. So one might told me that I should go and meet that woman back, that I know what she want to told me. I just go back. Now I'm in SS3. I wanted to do YA this year.
Organizers say Light Up Olusosun is not just a celebration event, but a sustained call to action, proving that location should never determine limitation. From Olusosun Ojota, Lagos, this is Oyindamola Olukoto reporting for Voice of the People TV.
Thank you very much, Onida. Joining us virtually to analyze the news is Chartered Management Accountant and Public Affairs Analyst Chijioke Oje. Glad to have you join us, Chijioke.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Good evening. Thank you. Okay, so President Bola Tinubu has reassured that Nigeria would surmount its security challenges, but only through collective national efforts. He made this known while he visited Adamawa State. What do you make of this? Do you align with a statement that
Yes.
it's only through national collective effort?
Yeah, but the thing, the buck stops at the president's table. We can't all be involved with the security architecture of the states. But if what he means is that perhaps intelligence and information gathering and sharing could be a citizenship role. But the major problem I've always criticized is that we do not have a responsive unit. People today say they are investing at different state levels on drones and all kinds of security meant to be dictative gadgets. I will ask one simple question. How do you intend to respond to these security challenges when you have identified them? It is no longer about identifying as the issue. It's the response that we have been crying for. If the government is sitting up as a result of the demand and deciding by international bodies, other nations' presidents that have called us to responsibility, we hope indeed that it is no longer just about this rhetoric statement, which is so easy to put together now on a piece of paper, and it becomes like as if actions have been taken. No. Let's not forget that as we speak now, more and more people are also being kidnapped. Just this morning, I was privy to a video, I don't know if it's recent, of a DCP of police who is in the custody of this terrorist, that till date, nobody knows if this man will make it alive or not. This is a man who is in service to his dear fatherland, and the police cannot even protect him. Then it shows how much more that we as a nation are in their need of this protection. So if the president is calling on or saying that this is a responsibility for all, yes, but we must also realize that first of all, there must be love for the country, which is continuously dying in the hearts and mouths and minds of an average Nigerians, because they are seeing the patterns of the people at the top. They cannot be said to be lovers of the nation when indeed all we have continued to see are these people who have, taken Nigeria as their second-class home. Every investment and all the whole stolen funds are all being directed to the countries that they pledge allegiances to. And how can then we not be saying that the nation can be secured? So it's only an imaginative word. And I'm hoping that they are able to put more action to this, because the buck stops at the president's table, and he must begin from his own home. Because a lot of people say that today, majority of his cabinet members do not owe their allegiance to Nigeria. And in such situations, what do you expect of our security to become? If the people who are preaching it do not believe in it, then it is only definitely, a caricature towards those who don't have the alternative to leave the country. Because the security, yes, must be the business of every one of us. But how then do we now work together when the same people that are at the top have continued to devise means of dividing Nigerians through ethnicity, through religion, through class? Now we have them being referring to those who have been robbed of their future as less privileged Nigerians. This is a mocker. What makes them privileged? And now they classify others to be less privileged. When you have stolen the futures of these individuals by continuously to loot funds that you have borrowed on their behalf, and then you have not had any responsibility on those who are the major causes or sponsors of this criminality against Nigeria. Let's hope that this time it's a different outcome of the statement. Hope that the presidency, as he's speaking, is also addressing the people around him and in his own home. Now, the charity must begin at home.
All right, Chijoke. The president, this statement you just dissected, the president made it during his visit to Adamawa State, where he commissioned projects executed by Governor Amadou Fintere. This is coming just days after he went to Kebbi State to also commission projects executed by the governor of that state. But then, let me take you back to Friday, where the Arewa Consultative Forum brought out a statement to say that there is a huge humanitarian crisis looming because of food insecurity. They specified it. So what do you think is happening? Is the North thriving or is the North hungry?
You see, one beautiful thing I can tell the average Nigerian or the lovers of our dear country is that our unity is not a mistake. The major problem we've had are the politicians who have continued to take advantage of the situations and have continued to degrade any meaningful effort by those who are the real superheroes of Nigeria. And the real superheroes are the farmers, the teachers, the doctors, those who are committed to saving lives and empowering and ensuring the continuity of life in Nigeria. Let's not forget that the blessings each and every individual is gifted for are for reasons to be utilized for the purpose of helping himself and his fellow humanity. But what we have continued to see is a situation where indeed the people at the center, who usually are people of most times the poorest of characters, especially in the case of our dear country, and the laziest of all, and in most cases, the most criminal intents, who have continued to use the games they know how to play by telling the people what they want to hear. Look at a situation where for years we have been crying to Nigerians that how do we expect there to be more food on the table when the farmers are maimed and killed on a daily basis, and we felt it is normal, it is natural that the food will grow itself. It will never. And let's not forget that this same thing have continued to occur without there being any reprieve or any tangible, meaningful security intervention towards this. And then we expect for things to get better. The answer is no. Now we have become a nation where everything is about creating content. Everything is about comedy. Young men and women that should be engaged in meaningful, impactful, the word is impactful production of foods, services, and goods, are busy creating caricatures that in the end will go to the market with money to buy what? To buy the few food that will be available for who? Only the rich that can afford. And that is why on a continuously basis, we've continued to see the skyrocketing inflationary rates on everything consumable, be it services, be it goods, be it the same food. And the nation is not thinking of the ways out of it. It is only just a little matter of time. Everything will collapse. And let me even tell Nigerians the biggest issues. While the people at the top are celebrating the continued crash of our currency, I can tell you that more than 80 to 85% of Nigerians cannot afford to cross outside of Nigeria now to buy food from our neighbors. I'm talking about the Beninouas, the Nigers, the Cameroonians, the Gabons. Why? Because the Naira is doing extremely badly against these currencies, the CFAs that surrounds us. And the advantage for them now is that an individual who earns probably 5,000 CFA can afford to buy, in fact, if not all the entire produce of a single farmer in Nigeria today, because the currency continues to gain weight. So for them, it is even easier to buy from Nigerians and then to sell or export or consume, which is a greater issue in terms of our food security. We have also continued to speak about the issue of wastages. We have the tomato season, and in a few months, it's all gone. You can't find tomatoes anywhere. We have the onion season, the same thing. And yet we have the professors in agriculture that are not producing anything, that are not in any way at all thinking of the alternative. We have them at the various parastatals and government agencies. Every year and year, budgets are being passed. These individuals are on the traveling spree, and we cannot see any form of returns on investment as we Nigerians that are investing on them. And we expect that the food itself will be on our table. The answer is no. Nigerians must begin to face reality that while the governments in place are dancing for 2027, hunger is escorting them to the houses of all those who are following the mandates. They will stand on the mandate. It is he who has fed that will stand. But a hungry stomach will not be able to withstand. So the bigger challenge is that our governors today have been so distracted. You think that it's about politicking. You tell Nigerians to leave their farmlands and come and be involved in politics, so that who will produce the foods? So that what will happen in the end? Every sector in Nigeria is collapsing. Tell me one center or unit that is functional today, if not being driven by foreigners. That is even the greater problem. So Nigerians today should be more worried, because so long as the stomach is not being fed, you cannot expect any form of productivity from an individual. A hungry stomach can never be honest, and it can never be productive. So Nigerians better brace up that all those times of wastages, where the farmers today have become politicians, where the farmers have been killed and maimed in the farms, and no form of accountability have been done, no form of fairness or justice have been in any way at all adhered to, and this continues to go on, and we expect a change, it will not happen overnight. Okay. The government better wake up to the realities and the responsibilities, because there's hunger in the land.
Okay. Oh, thank you for speaking so extensively. But let me take you to what's happening in the National Assembly. The Joint Committee on Defense has backed the Nigerian Army's proposed 1.504 trillion naira 2026 budget. And of course, they pledged to tackle the recurring delays in the release of funds. But I want to ask you, what do you make of this amount of funds? 1.4504 trillion naira, I beg your pardon. Do you think that is actually sufficient for us, for our budget? Or do you think it's too small, too big? What do you make of that exact amount for the budget?
Well, if I begin to dissect it, perhaps the federal government would now have to institute another case against me, just as they have done with for El-Rufai. But let me just tell you what is at play. When the entire armed forces, which is made up of the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army, which are said to be the territorial protector of our integrity of our border, and you're having a section which is supposed to be under the same Ministry of Defense. Let's not forget that Defense this year got the highest in terms of budget for the year, which was in excess of 5.4 trillion or thereabout. The military army as a section coming out on its own demands. And then the National Assembly, those that are chairing, who beyond we know of the usual 15%, but I have not accused anybody. But I'm just saying that, yes, if funding has been the challenge, why in the past the fundings that have been released, we've never heard about accountability? We cannot continue to reinforce failure. The problems individually is that once we ask for accountability in our dear country, it becomes a crime. This is the only nation in the world. It can never happen in Benin Republic, not to talk about Togo or other neighboring nations. No matter how things may be seen to be bad, but not in terms of the people getting answers. How can it be a crime when we should be asking for accountability? What have you done with what you were given before you can be said to be given another?
You
that
know,
is why there's always a sense of budgeting.
Chijoke, yeah, I'd like to come in here. That question you just asked is very germane, and it's a billion-dollar question we must actually answer eventually. But I'd like to quickly draw your attention to something you said earlier on, because I've got just very few minutes with you, and I really want to have you speak to this. You name-dropped El-Rufai, and you alluded to the fact that the federal government has invited him to come answer questions. Let's talk about that, right? Because the Federal High Court in Abuja, the federal government actually has entered before the Federal High Court in Abuja a 3-count charge against the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, over his alleged unlawful interception of the phone conversation of the National Security Advisor, Ribadu. In a couple of minutes, Chijioke, what do you make of this?
It's a rubbish matter. It's just a complete distraction. Why are the NSA and the presidency not responding to his early allegations? The same El-Rufai in recent time alleged that the current president, the sitting president in the name of Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu, withdraws 100 billion. 100 billion should cause a shake waiver to anybody who hears this on a monthly basis in almost 2 years, unaccounted for. That's one. He also alleged that the same NSA office have been paying these criminals, these destructive elements, salaries on monthly basis and have been financing, which of course, the mouth spokesperson of the president collaborated it, that the military, the NSA are aware of these individuals and are in talks with these criminal, terrorist individuals. But however, even the so-called case, which is a complete, just a charade, because El-Rufai himself, on the same live television, alleged that it was somebody. You cannot charge a man, even with my little knowledge of law. You can't charge a man who has not directly said he is the one responsible. And it is within his prerogative and right to say he decides to withhold such name. I'm not speaking for El-Rufai, and I have no anything at all on his behalf as a defense. But I'm just saying that this is a complete cloud chasing of the reality. Why is the NSA and the presidency not responding to other allegations that the El-Rufai has raised? Once would have been expecting that the presidency and the NSA would have been taking him on the grounds of the already mentioned big taboos, in the sense that these are things that are creating the poverty, the chaos, the unrest in our dear nation. And we're not hearing of that. We're hearing of the fact that he's said to be in knowledge of an individual who wiretapped the NSA, not the NSA office. He said in the person of Ribadu. And I tell you, as one of the gimmicks in the media, he would have even used that as a way of, getting to who ordered the arrest that was said to be under ICPC instead of the EFCC that he honored the invitations today. So if indeed Nuhu Ribadu is also questioning that, he should also be responding to another allegation that the El-Rufai has alleged of certain substance chemicals that have been imported, not on the way, that have been imported are currently in Nigeria from Poland. And these chemicals are said to be extremely highly contagious and dangerous. And in fact, even in his letter, he even requested to know if there are contagious plans in case of emergencies or issues arising from these chemicals. We're not hearing the NSA office, answer this. We're hearing that because they tapped Ribadu's line, that is now the biggest crime against the state. It didn't say that he intercepted the NSA's office. He said the person is Ribadu. So any good lawyer who is knowledgeable about law will know that this is a complete waste of time. And as usual, because they have impoverished the mindset of Nigerians, they have led them to, taking that as a lead discussion that will probably contain the entire week. Meanwhile, the entire nation is sinking in the midst of debts, in the midst of criminality, in the midst of corruption, in the midst of non-performance, in the midst of mismanagement, in the midst of flouting of powers, in the midst of disregard for law, in the midst of abuse of law, in the midst of destruction of public property, in the midst of all kinds of caricatures that is being inherited and put and passed across Nigerians. And Nigerians are not even looking at that. It is a mere statement by El-Rufai, who is also their own brother. He's also our brother, Nigerians. It will come out as completely a waste of time. Nigerians should wake up wiser. This government cannot continue to, deceive us anymore.
Okay, thank you very much, Chijioke, for your brilliant analysis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we've been speaking with Chijioke Orji. He is a public affairs analyst. Moving on, President Bola Tinubu has described the Memorandum of Understanding between Nigeria's BUA Group and UAE-based AD Ports Group and My Group in Abu Dhabi as strategic and a major industrial and trade breakthrough. Commending the agreement, the president said it was a tangible dividend of the renewed Nigeria-United Arab Emirates engagement following recent state visits and high-level discussions with the UAE leadership on trade, investment, infrastructure, and food security. In a statement by Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, Tinubu said the initiative is expected to enhance value addition, strengthen supply chain resilience, and deepen structured trade flows between West Africa and the Gulf region. According to him, the MOU explores collaboration in sugar refining, agro-industrial development, and integrated global logistics solutions with plans for sugar refining and advanced logistics infrastructure to be developed in the UAE. He noted that the partnership reflects the determination to position Nigeria as a competitive industrial and trading nation, while empowering Nigerian businesses to operate confidently on the global stage. Mixed reactions have followed reports of the arrival of United States troops of Maiduguri in Borno State. Authorities say the foreign personnel will serve in non-combat support roles, but questions remain about how the partnership could affect the fight against insurgency. Some Nigerians who spoke with VOP TV's Matthew Gunswada in Lagos expressed both hope and concern about what the development means for the country's security.
Troops and equipment have reportedly arrived in Nigeria to support the government in addressing security challenges. Officials say the first batch of roughly 100 U.S. troops is expected this weekend, with additional personnel and equipment to follow in the coming weeks. The deployment comes amid ongoing security threats, with officials emphasizing that the mission is temporary and focused on support and capacity building. Edo State residents showed varied reactions, reflecting both hope for strengthened security and caution about the involvement of foreign troops.
Outside political affiliation or whatever, political ideology or whatever, Nigeria is our country. We don't have any other country. Nigeria is our country. So if we cannot help ourselves and the US has agreed to help us, it's a welcome development. As a matter of fact, anybody who is against the idea of US coming at all, you know the person is an enemy of Nigeria. That's just the truth. So we are very optimistic, and we hope that every Nigerian citizen, especially the security personnel, should not see them as competitors, rather they should see them as collaborators, so that this problem can be solved once and for all. 2027 is around the corner, so why do we need to play politics with human lives?
It's a shame that Nigeria, as a sovereign nation, that we cannot solve our security challenges. We are now relying on America. You know, America is not doing that thing for free. America have their own strategy, but it's a shame that we cannot defend our country. We are relying on external force, relying on men and officers of United States of America to now rescue our country for us. So we just pray for Nigeria to have a fit and become a sovereign nation indeed.
The American troops landing in Nigeria, I think it's a welcome development, and I just believe that they are coming. We foil the activities and the plans of these insurgents. Recently, we heard what happened at Kwara State, you know, and I also have some on my media tapes, those recently that have been held hostage, the way they've been handling them and all that, and yet some are saying such things are not happening in Nigeria. I think it is time for the Americans, those international community, to see for themselves what is actually happening here. It's not going to be a hearsay again or speculation. I just pray that they will not be hindered, you know, by our political class.
Brother Johnny, VOP TV News.
Well, we apologize for that mix-up. That was our correspondent Rhoda Johnny reporting from Edo State. Still in Benin City, the Edo State capital, meanwhile, residents have slammed the Benin Electricity Distribution Company, BEDC, over the persistent power outages and what they describe as exploitative billing. They accuse the company of forcing citizens to repair faulty transformers, sending bills for electricity never supplied, and ignoring repeated complaints. Our correspondent, Rhoda Johnny, again reports.
Residents of Edo State held a press conference today at the Youth House, Benin City. The group has vowed not to pay for electricity not supplied and has given back a 2-week ultimatum to resolve the issues, calling on the Edo State government and stakeholders to step in.
BDC has failed to take responsibility as distribution company to fix their issues. Some other communities are compelled to buy transformers, to buy poles and cables to fix their power issues. Why they write undertaking to donate the equipment to BDC and also pay millions, ranging between 10 to 15 million for installation of those equipments. In the light of the above, we hereby demand as follows. 1, that BDC should stop oppressing Edo people and wake up to its primary responsibility of effectively distribution of power to Edo people. 2, that BDC should, as a matter of babana, restore communities in darkness back to the national grid.
They say residents have long been forced to repair faulty transformers and other equipment themselves, while some areas still have no electricity but continue to receive bills.
The government officials who are busy, the few light, the little power grid we have been distributed to the bourgeois in our state to enjoy, while the rest of us can go and die and they don't care. And that is why we say after 2 weeks, the pain and the suffering they have subjected us to, we will also subject BDC and the cause to that same pain.
Accusing the Benin Electricity Distribution Company vexed of unfair billing and poor service.
That BDC commits to steal from Edo people. It is very, very sardonic that we pay for light and we get darkness.
Sources to reach the distribution company management was unsuccessful. Brother Johnny, VOP TV News.
Thank you very much, Rhoda. We now move on to the foreign scene. Lyudmila Navalnaya, mother of late Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny, says assessment that her son was killed using a poison developed from a dart frog toxin validates her belief that he was murdered. United Kingdom and European allies said over the weekend that only the Russian state had the means, motive, and opportunity to deploy the lethal toxin. His widow, Yulia, marked the 2-year anniversary of his death, writing on social media that they have achieved truth and would achieve justice one day too. Meanwhile, Russia has rejected the accusations, with Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov describing them as biased and unfounded.
In business news, the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, has announced that Nigeria's headline inflation eased slightly to 15.10% in January, down from 15.1% or 15% in December 2025. In the NBS data released on Monday, which marked the agency's 10th consecutive monthly moderation in the country's inflation rate, it explained that the marginal slowdown followed changes to its price measurement framework introduced in its previous report. It added that the revised approach was designed to better capture prevailing market conditions. The NBS said that under the new methodology, it now applies a 12-month reference period with the average consumer price index CPI for the 12 months of 2024 set as the base year equal to 100. It further explained that previously the CPI was benchmarked against a single month reference period with December 2024 fixed at 100. The NBS also reported a notable easing in food inflation, which it said remained one of the strongest drivers of consumer prices and declined to 8.89% year-on-year in January, down from 10.84% in December 2024.
Announcer Sports Benfica coach Jose Mourinho has insisted he can say no to Real Madrid president Florentino Perez, playing down rumors of a potential return to the Spanish giant. Mourinho's comments come ahead of Benfica's Champions League playoff clash against Real Madrid on Tuesday, with a second leg at the Santiago Bernabeu next week. Mourinho, who led Real Madrid from 2010 to 2013, has a clause in his Benfica contract allowing him to depart the club, fueling speculations that Perez might consider him for next season. However, Mourinho emphasized his focus on Benfica, saying he has a great friendship with Perez, but is committed to his current role. Benfica recently defeated Real Madrid 4-2 in a league phase, and he warned that the Spanish giant will be a dangerous opponent in the playoff.
In entertainment news, actress Omotola Jalade Kehinde has commended Nigerian women in the film industry for dominating key segments, saying it underscored their pivotal role in sustaining Nollywood. She also cited their entrepreneurial drive and capacity to balance diverse ventures, stating that they often run multiple businesses alongside their acting careers, including modeling, brand influencing, and retail businesses, among others. Compared to their male counterparts, Omotola stated that while men receive admiration, women get more intense level of attention and assistance. Well, it's a wrap for us on News Hour. Thank you so much for watching. I am Vivian Oguche.
And I am Nenna Ndomdioto. To have a good night rest.
VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
This is Health Check, your weekly guide to better living, smarter choices, and trusted answers. From everyday wellness to urgent health issues, we've got you covered. Health Check, only on Voice of the People Television, where your health has a voice.
Welcome to the locker room, the home of football talk that matters. I am Jerry Arpillon. Join us every weekday, Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. Nigerian time, as we share the hot takes and hot debates in the exciting world of football. And joining me are the usual suspects, Ikechukwu and Mayowa, as we break down all the hot takes and everything that's happening in the football. Don't just watch football, live it with us. Catch us on the locker room and Voice of the People Television at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. And like I always say, if not 20 minutes off, please discuss.
And it's Hakim Ziyech, who puts the
Do you want your voice to be heard? Do you know that you matter in the scheme of things? The People's Voice, the show where ordinary citizens take center stage as we discuss the biggest stories that affect you and I, with you in mind We facilitate lively discussions, debates, and interviews on the topics that matter most to you and I, from social justice to economic empowerment, education to healthcare, governance, and more, tackling tough topics and amplifying your voice. Join the conversation and make your voice count. The people's voice. Make your voice count.
Africa is on the move, a continent of rising voices, untold stories, and powerful transformations. From the streets of Lagos to the heart of Nairobi, from the mines of Congo to the tech labs of Cape Town, the African story is being written every day. Bold, dynamic,